Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. My name is Yoli Rome. I'm the Associate Dean for First Year, Sophomore, and First Generation College Advising. Today, I have with me Dean Carol Cohen and Dean Rashid Zia. And first, I'd like Dean Carol Cohen, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Really glad to be here today. My name is Carol Cohen, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Class Year Advising and Personal and Health Issues.
And Dean Zia, can I have you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Rashid Zia. I'm a faculty member in the School of Engineering, the Department of Physics, and a Brown alum, and it is my pleasure to serve as Dean of the College.
All right, there are a lot of questions that have come in prior to this. I would just reiterate that this is actually going to be about registration, course selection. There are questions about housing, quarantine, testing, student clubs, student employment. Those are not questions that pertain specifically to our office. So what we're going to focus on today is academic advising, and Dean Zia is going to give us an overview of how this new registration, revised, revamped, updated registration process is going to work.
Hi, Yoli. Thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, I'm going to try. I wanted to first provide a brief overview so then we could jump right into your questions. And I just wanted to reiterate what Dean Rome suggested, is that if you have a question, please also feel free to pop it into the chat Q&A. I thought what might be most helpful is just beginning with a run through of the calendar, because this year has been so different than past years, and the process of pre-registration and the beginning of the semester looks quite different. So what is happening is, as you know, all of the academic departments at the university were working on plans for a 3-semester academic calendar. We shared with you a little bit earlier the provisional course list that they had been building. Last week, actually Friday of last week, we were fortunate that the university registrar was able to bring up the Courses at Brown system. So if you go into the Courses at Brown system now, you should be able to see all of the courses that are being planned for the fall. If you go in, you'll also see that the courses look a little bit different from this year than in past years. There's a search field that's about the modes of instruction. So you're able to go in and look at classes that are going to be delivered fully online or in a hybrid modality. You also see when you pick up a particular course, you may have noticed that there are some courses that don't have any times associated with them. And these are fully online courses that are going to be offered asynchronously. Now that that information is in CAB, the message that we sent you this week was about how you can use that information to start with course selection and pre-registration. As you probably know, the pre-registration process at Brown has always been a little bit of a challenge. The process that we would use in prior semesters was what was called a first come, first served model. And so what happened is every individual person's registration was looked at one at a time, almost as if it was a paper form. When I was a student, it was a paper form. And the reason the process worked that way is that you'd take one paper and you'd try to see if people could get into the courses. When we moved online to Banner, that process was followed over. And so that's why there was a day when seniors, for example, would have access to submitting courses. And then there was a day that juniors would have access to submitting, and sophomores, and so on. But what would happen is in that system, whoever submitted their courses first, or whoever could push the button the fastest at 8 a.m. would oftentimes get enrolled in 5 enrollment limited courses. Because the way you optimize that system as a student is you try to put all the courses that you could possibly want at once and see what happens. This meant that there was a lot of shuffling back and forth, especially if you weren't a senior who pushed the button at 8 a.m. So our goal for this year is to see how we can help improve that. And we've spoken to many students and many faculty about options that you might want to see. What we decided to implement after your feedback was a matching process. We know that right now, not all of you are going to be able to push the button at the same time. And we don't want you to feel that pressure. What we want you to do is to be able to go into Courses at Brown, pick the courses that you're interested in, and simply place them in your card. We also know that oftentimes you might be interested in taking a course, but the specific section, when the conference happens, when the lab happens, is not that important to you. What is important is getting into the course in one of the sections in a way that doesn't conflict. So you're welcome to put as many courses as you want in your cart. You're also welcome to put as many conferences and labs, all of the time slots that could work for you. We wanted to give you time to do this, so you have until Monday, August 10th at noon Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So I repeat that. You have from now until August 10th to put courses in the cart that you're interested in. And then what we're going to do is the week of August 10th, we're going to take the information from your carts and we're going to do our very best to help match you to the courses that you would prefer. We're not going to try to match you to all of your courses because we want to give option for you to move around. But we are going to take into consideration your semester level, your concentration requirements, whether or not an enrollment, a course is enrollment capped. I know that you're going to have many questions about how you should put your courses in. So I'm glad to answer those in a little bit, but just wanted to summarize the basic process. So you go into courses at Brown, you put a course in your primary cart. Now, when you put a course in your primary cart, you also gain access to some things. So in past semesters, we had a process in shopping where when you put a course into your cart, during the semester, you would have access to the published Canvas site for the first 2 weeks. We've started that early now. So as soon as you put a course into your cart, if there is a published Canvas site, you'll have access to that right away. And also instructors will know you will appear for them as a prospective student, and that helps them to get a sense of how many people are interested in the course, where you might be in the world. And next week, we're actually going to be sending communications to instructors, sharing with them student information about how many people are interested in the class, how many of you have chosen to come back to Providence in residence, or how many of you are choosing to study remotely outside of the Providence area, so that they get some idea for the range of experiences in the course. We will also be sending out, likely next week or the following week, a brief survey to you, asking about your experience, what circumstances you might want instructors to be aware of, and sort of the access that you might have to technology and resources and timing. I hope you'll be able to fill that out because we're going to use that information to share back with instructors so they can prepare for the semester ahead. After we go through the matching process, so the matching process will be the week of August 10th. Next will be the week of August 17th. We're going to open up the system, as we always would, to your manual registration, to you adding and dropping courses or changing your grade options. Usually, in past semesters, we wouldn't open up courses until the day of the semester started. But this time, we wanted to give you access before the semester started, so you can go through the process of trying to narrow down your course list before the first day of class. We're going to be reaching out to instructors. We're going to be asking them to make available materials to you, their syllabi, and I think many instructors are also going to set up some recordings in Canvas sites that you can see. They might set up some Zoom sessions to talk about their syllabi. We're going to try to help provide you as much information as we can, even before the semester starts to engage. The thing that's going to be really different, though, is that this semester, there's going to be a quiet period on campus that you've probably heard a little bit about. We're asking all students that want to come back to the Providence area and study in residence that they need to arrive no later than September 2nd. And that week of time from September 2nd to September 9th is going to be a time period of testing, of engagement on campus, of getting used to the circumstances of the university. That quiet period is really going to extend for at least 2 weeks, though, because of public health guidance. And so the first week of classes, from Wednesday, September 9th to Tuesday, September 15th, will be fully online. If you might imagine what a classroom has looked like during shopping period, where lots of people are coming in, we needed to make sure that that first week was accessible to everybody. So all classes will be online for that first week. Starting Wednesday, September 16th, hybrid courses may begin in-person classes. It's really going to be up to the instructors and public health guidance and other such. But the only students that will be able to attend classes in person are those who are stated to be in residence, right? Either on campus or off campus or commuting, and are registered for the course. Because we need to make sure that not too many people show up to any one of these courses. So if you're still shopping a class at that point, if you're not yet officially registered, you will continue to engage in the class remotely during that week. And you'll continue to have access through Canvas to any class that's in your shopping cart through to the end of shopping period, that is Tuesday, September 22nd. So just to repeat that, Course at Brown is live. You can see all the classes. What we'd like you to do through August 10th is pick out the classes that you're interested in, put them in your cart. We know that there's a lot of challenges getting into the ones that you love. So we're going to try to help match you with up to 3 courses through a matching process the week of August 10th. You'll see those results August 14th. And then you'll have from August 17th all the way to September 22nd to continue adding and dropping courses the way you would. I know that that's a lot of information about the fall. So I wanted to pause there and see if we have, I see a bunch of questions coming in.
I think,
Joey, do you want to help Chip?
Sure. I think a big concern of students really is about how is this going to work in terms of, there's no necessarily, hi Brewster, sorry. There's no ranking or preference listing within the cart. And I think people are worried that perhaps that this matching process might not work in the way that we are hoping. So I'm wondering if you can give some kind of assurance or special coding information that you can help us to understand how the preferences, how is this going to work?
So thanks, Yoli, and thanks, Dean Rome, and thank you to all who've asked this question. I'm going to say this in a slightly different form. I know that I've personally received a lot of communication from students who are interested in how do I help improve my chances of getting the courses I want? Or sometimes they use a word, how do I game the system? Know that our goal is really to not make, this isn't to try to build a system to be gamed. The old system, where whoever got in first got a bunch of courses, wasn't really a remarkably fair system. And it was always difficult to get into classes. So we're trying to see if we can make a more fair system. The way the matching is going to work is we're going to look at whether or not a course is in demand, right? So if a class, for example, is enrollment limited and lots of people put it in their cart, we know that that's something that is of value to you and that you want to get into, and we're going to try to weight those connections, those matches more. We also know that many juniors and seniors have concentration requirements that they are really critically interested in getting into. If a course is part of your concentration requirements, we're going to weight those matches a little bit more. As we've always done in the past, we're going to weight matches by the seniority of the student. So based on your semester level, if you were a 0.5er, who this is your last semester on campus, we're going to weight the match a little bit more. And our goal is really to find a way to ensure that every student gets some of the matches that they would like. Now, other people have asked for guarantees. Hey, you said you would match me to 3 courses. If I only put 3 enrollment limited courses in my cart, do I just get those? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. I'm sorry. We can't guarantee, if the only things you put in your cart are the enrollment limited classes that every one of your peers wants, it is not likely that we'll be able to match you in pre-registration. So what we would ask you to do is really put in the cart all the courses that you're interested in. We're using this information to try to get you into courses. Now, if there is a course that isn't enrollment limited and that we think has capacity, we're going to weight that match less because we know you'll be able to do it later on in the add drop period. So please don't worry about those kinds of constraints. You are welcome to put multiple sections in. You're welcome to put time conflict courses in, but know that if there are conflicts, we can only register you for 1 course. So our best advice to you is if you're interested in getting matched for some courses, please put at least 5 non-conflicting courses in your cart. That gives you a good sort of bound. I know that there's another specific question I'm seeing on the thread, which is about override codes. So please know that we can only pre-register you into classes for which you have override permission or you meet all the prerequisites. So we are going to continue to honor override codes and prerequisites. We can't place you into a course that you don't have the prerequisites for. and you really need to have all components for the course. So if it's a class that has a main section, a conference or recitation, and a lab, you get a warning in CAB that says you didn't add all the pieces. Please make sure to add all the pieces.
I'd like to turn this question to Dean Cohen. Dean Cohen, there are a lot of courses or a lot of questions coming in about courses that overlap, and our general policy is that if a course meets at the same time, you can't be in two places at once. So how is the university looking at these conflicts?
Sure. So like everything else in this changing environment, we are looking to make our policies a little more nimble for this academic year so that course overlaps that actually make sense to both faculty and the student can have a broader passageway to be considered and approved. Traditionally, course overlaps are only approvable if it's around 10 minutes of overlap, 10 or 15 minutes, and with a plan to replace the missed seat time or the missed instructional time. Obviously, in a remote environment, there may well be situations where a course could be fully taken in a recorded form and then fully taken in the synchronous form and not have a conflict. So we are currently reviewing what is fair and what is feasible for the coming academic year. So I would say stay tuned. We will certainly communicate any changes out to all students when we have them.
Great, thank you. Dean Zia, there are lots of students who have interests that are outside of their concentration choices, especially sophomores who haven't necessarily declared already. Wondering how those interests, so for example, pre-med requirements, which are not necessarily in a concentration, or an international student who's going to be here on campus, they need that on-campus course, hybrid course. How is all that going to be factored in?
Okay, so I want to just
all of it.
All right, so I'm going to try to get all of that, Yoli. Let me go back. I want to address the last one because I know that there are probably many international students on the call. Please know that to the best of our guidance, there is not a requirement for continuing students to be enrolled in a hybrid course if they choose to be in the United States. I'm not the one to give advice about immigration and visa issues. I just want to be clear that there was a change in the ICE guidance. So please don't feel obliged to be in a hybrid course. Please choose the courses that you're interested in. But what we're going to do for all students that have chosen to study in residence, we're going to do our best during pre-registration to prioritize so that you might be hopefully registered in at least one course that is in a hybrid mode of instruction. So we're going to consider, for those of you who have completed, everybody's completed their fall location of study. If you've indicated that you'll be commuting, living in approved off-campus housing, or living on campus, we're going to try to prioritize so that you have potentially one hybrid course. For all of the other things about sophomores, about juniors, about seniors who want to look at elective courses, please know that we are still offering all of these courses, and the vast majority of which we want you to explore. And so this isn't about, what I wouldn't focus on is, how do I improve my chances of getting into any one course? Because in the past, you wouldn't always have been able to pre-register for them. But place all of those things that you're excited about in your cart. We have many more capacity in courses than we have students. We've always had that. And we want you to explore things outside of your concentration. So when we talk about this, there's no specific formula yet. We're going to try out a number of different weighting schemes to see how we can ensure that you get into a range of courses that you prefer. The reason why it's happening over the course of a week and not over the course of a day is we could write this in advance, but we're not sure it's going to match your interests. So we're going to go through an iterative process of trying to find the best way to match students with the courses that they prefer inside their concentration, outside their concentration. For sophomores and first years that don't yet have concentrations, that's okay. We want you to be able to explore. I will repeat that in the past, the first come, first serve actually made it difficult to do that sometimes. If it's okay, Dean Rome, I wanted to just say that I can see some things coming through that I want to just respond to really quickly. Rebecca, thank you for the question about Canvas access. I believe that you have Canvas access right now. So you can confirm this because I don't have the student view, but at least from what I can see, if you have a course in your primary cart and the course is published, I believe that it shows up today in your Canvas list. If you see something different, please let me know. With the anonymous question about how we're going to promote a hybrid course for those students who might be studying in residence, all of these, this kind of problem, this matching problem, is something that's called a bipartite graph. We have two lists of things. We have a list of students. We have a list of courses, and we're trying to build connections. And each of those connections is weighted by these priorities. And so there's going to be a prioritization if you want access to an enrollment limited class. And there's going to be a prioritization if you're perhaps doing one of these hybrid classes in your residence. Or if you're a senior, the priority weight is a little bit different. We're going to play with those weights until we can help ensure that you get into courses. And there are two other questions I just want to say. Anna, I appreciate the question about, is this practical? Don't know that practical was the word that we would use to describe this. For those of you who might know, we began the project to try to improve pre-registration last year before COVID-19. And we were hopeful that we would have this whole year to build a system to make it happen. And really what happened this summer is once we saw how difficult this was going to be and the range of course options that might be happening, we knew we had to build it for this semester. I think what's going to happen is, by the way, our colleagues in the University Registrar in Computing and Information Services and the college have been really great about trying to think about how to program it. We're spending all of our time trying to program this process to work. It is not practical, but it is our hope that it becomes a permanent part of our curriculum. That if we can figure out how to do this well, help get you matched into more courses that are of interest to you, it'll make shopping more fun and more accessible in the future. And I do personally hope that some aspects of virtual shopping, being able to explore courses online, even before the semester might begin, might last into the future. So it may not be practical, but we need your feedback. If we can help make it better, it can be something that might be successful and a sustaining part of our curriculum. And the last part is, oh, sorry. I want to say that I know that there are questions about can we put in ranked preferences? Matching problems have many solutions. Some of you may have studied some of these solutions in applied math courses or economics courses. We don't have a system, so going to around what's practical, we don't have a system to put in ranked preferences, and ranked preference systems can be gamed quite easily. What we have is CAB. And we didn't want to make one new tool for you. So right now, all we have to work with is the list of courses that you submit to us. The more courses you submit, the easier it is for us to make matches. And we will try to help with the ranking by knowing how much people want seats in these courses so that we're helping maximize your opportunity to be in the classes that you want the most. So sorry, we can't do ranked preferences right now, but hopefully the system that we're building might help us find a better way to do this moving forward.
So there's a question in here that says, I don't seem to have Canvas access for some of the courses in my cart, but I do in others. So it seems that perhaps that might be about the faculty not having the Canvas course up yet. No?
Yes, Yoli. So in those cases, not all of the Canvas sites are yet published. So know that a lot of instructors are building out those sites with new resources and new tools for the start of the semester. So we'll be reaching out to faculty about ways to publish them. So what you're seeing is that some sites are published and you already can see lots, and the other sites are still being built. And please know that we're still many, many weeks away from the start of the semester.
And do you have a sense of when syllabi will be posted? And or when are classes for the spring going to be posted? And
thank you, Yoli. Those are great questions. So two things. Syllabi. So because we had to take down courses at Brown and Banner to rebuild all of the courses for the fall, faculty did not have access to being able to post their syllabi. So the same time that you got access to courses at Brown is around when they were able to start submitting syllabi again. So what you've noticed is in the first couple of days, more syllabi are showing up, and also more of the book and course materials are showing up because faculty now have access to enter that in again. We suspect, and we're going to ask faculty to try to get all of their syllabi up by August 17th, and we're going to be sharing that with them next week. Know that traditionally, faculty have until the week before the semester. So usually all the syllabi are due on the Wednesday before classes, so September 2nd. So we are really thankful that faculty have been responding well and putting up things earlier. We're trying to ask them to help provide you with as much information as we want. But just know that we still have time. We're many weeks from the start of the semester.
So spring.
So please know that the spring courses, so now our highest priority is still getting the fall courses up. You may have remembered that we shared with you something called the provisional partial course list. That's really because that's what it is. It is both provisional and partial. The information in CAB is the best possible information. We hope to get spring courses up in CAB next month. So hopefully before the start of the semester. The provisional partial list we're going to keep up there for now so that you can see what's available. And we're doing our best to get all of the information up to you. We need that information to be accurate because we don't want to be giving you too much change. As you may notice, the system CAB, when you remove something from the list, still shows up with a line through it, which isn't always really helpful for you. So it isn't helpful for us to turn on something that is largely inaccurate and then have to change it. So please use the provisional partial list. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for posting that in the chat, and we'll try to get you a better resource soon. Again, know that all of those things are subject to change. Every semester at Brown, courses change right up until the first day of classes. So if you have questions about pathways, please let us know. Please reach out to one of the college advising deans or reach out to your concentration advisor.
So Dean Cohen, what about PIN numbers?
Well, I believe, my colleagues will correct me, I believe there are no pins for the fall term. Correct?
Correct.
Which does not mean that you should not consult with your advising folks, whether those are your sophomore advisor or a concentration advisor or both. Absolutely, please reach out, please be in touch, please have advising conversations, but they will not be framed or compelled by the PIN for this fall.
Dean Zia, can you confirm how many courses should students put in their cart? Can they put conflicting?
Yeah, so can I say that there's a range of courses that you might want to put in your cart. I know some students already know, I want to take these 4 courses. I would say know that if you put those 4 courses, we might not be able to guarantee them to you. So I would say always be looking at more. What I advise most students is to think about at least 5 to 10 courses that you're excited about. Look for a couple things that you've never heard of before that might interest you. We want you to do that. But knowing that you have many different interests, we know that some students have already put 50 courses in their cart, and that's wonderful. I'm not worried about, know that technically we'll manage however many courses you want to put in your cart. We want you to be looking at them for what's exciting to you. And I know that I'm looking at the chat about lots of specific questions about, will a semester 8 student have priority over a semester 7 student? What if I'm a junior in a concentrator? Will that have more weight than a senior non-concentrator? A lot of these questions, the matching won't be that mechanistic. So what's most important to us is please share with us the courses that you want to get into, whatever that number is, so that we can try to do our best to match you with those courses. Okay? The old system was very mechanistic. If you were the first person to hit at 8 a.m. on Monday, you got 5. And if you were the person who put in at 9 a.m. on Monday, you probably didn't get very many. And that was a system that was just too rigid to meet what your goals are. We know that Brown students are interested in a remarkable number of things. We have hundreds upon hundreds of courses that you can take. Share with us what you want to take, and we're going to do our best to try to get you there.
Thanks. So a question if a student is putting their courses in their cart, when do they actually hit the go to registration button? Register your cart.
So this year, you're not going to have to hit the go to registration button. All you have to do is you have between now and Monday, August 10th at noon to put courses in your cart. And what's going to happen is the university registrar is going to help us take all of the course information from your cart at Monday. We're going to take it out into an external system and we're going to try to match them. And then by Friday, we're going to share back into the system which courses you were registered for. You'll be able to see them in CAB. I believe they'll show up with a green check mark, and you'll be able to see them in self-service banner. Then on Monday, August 17th, you'll be able to go in and add and drop courses the way you always have by pushing the register button.
Great, thanks. Dean Cohen, what about advising? Do I have my first year advisor, my sophomore advisor has taken a leave? What happens to me?
Yeah, so advising should not be substantially altered by the current set of circumstances. So if you are a semester 1 through 4 student, you're not a 1, but if you're a semester 3 or 4 student, you should have your sophomore advisor. If you don't, you're welcome to reach out to advising@brown.edu and we'll look in the system and sort that out with you. If you are semester 5 and above, presumably you have a declared concentration and you have a concentration advisor. Again, all these folks are available, perhaps even more available than they were under previous circumstances. So just use the normal, modes of reaching out. If you are a semester 5 or higher student and you do not have an approved concentration, that is something that puts you into a kind of limbo, both in terms of your advisor, but also in terms of registration. So if you're in that category, it would probably be a good idea to write to college@brown.edu or advising@brown.edu to get hooked up with a conversation with a dean to help kind of nudge that along. If you know that you just need to be in touch with your advisor, or if you need to finish some part of the process and ask, please go ahead and do that as soon as possible, because you will save yourself a lot of trouble and heartache down the road when you're trying to register.
All right, Dean Zia, is it true that students are only going to be matched to 3 courses, and why 3?
That's a great question, Yoli. So this was the number 3 was come up in conversation with students. We know that this process is a little bit challenging. And we know that the way that registration usually works is, if you were the person that got that 8 a.m. on Monday push, what most of us would do, and I did it when I was a student, I would put 5 enrollment limited courses in my cart, right? With the hope that I would get some of them. And some people would get all 5. So I want everyone to think about this. When you got into an enrollment limited course, how long would you hold that spot before you decided to drop it, even if you were pretty sure you weren't going to take it? And I suspect the answer, at least when we look at the data, is you would oftentimes wait until the end of shopping period. And so this created a lot of anxiety for others, because once the slots in the enrollment limited classes were taken up, everyone was going and shopping classes with the hope that there would be people dropping out. So what we said when looking at that is we said, well, we don't want to overmatch people. We want to see if we can get everyone into some of these classes that they are always trying to get into. And we also knew that it was going to be tricky to understand the system. So we weren't sure. We thought, and if you look at the language, it says we'll match you with up to 3 courses. We're going to do however many we think we can fairly do. So if we think we can only fairly get everybody into 1 class, we'll go to 1 class and then we'll see what we have to do for manual add drop. If we look at the results and see that we can get nearly all of you into 3 classes, we're going to do that. So the reason we capped it is so that not that somebody who understood the system and found some way to get it would get into everything and then others would get into nothing. We're trying to figure out what is the reasonable number we can match and then still give you some agency to add and subtract things later on. Because the challenge might be that the 4th class you take, or perhaps the 5th class you take, oftentimes for students, it depends on what the other classes are, right? So we know that you may want to take a class in this discipline, but you may not want to take 4 classes in that discipline. So we thought that it would make sense for us to match up to 3 courses. Related to that, I've seen a question here that says, how do you know what courses are in the concentration? So we're going to know that based on 2 things, your declared concentration, well, 3 things, your declared concentration, the requirements of the concentration in the bulletin, and your concentration declaration form. And so that bit of information for juniors and seniors, we have some information about your concentrations. We have some information from your concentration forms. Now would be a wonderful time to update your concentration declaration, especially if you're a senior, just so you have a plan for finishing out. So I'd encourage you to do that at the same time as you're looking at the course selection. And if you do that, then we're going to use the most up-to-date information that you have to try to do this.
Thanks.
The one warning I would have is don't put things in your concentration that aren't required for your concentration, because then that's going to create other challenges for you. And it won't give you any preferred preference. So don't try to game the system with your concentration declaration. That'll create more problems.
All right, I'm going to turn away from matching per se. And Dean Cohen, can you let us know when students would be expected to, what's the deadline for declaring a concentration this year?
I do not know the answer to that. I apologize, I do not know.
No, that's fine. Everything is changing so much. I would assume it's April 1 of your 4th semester. If your 4th semester becomes in a different semester, it would be probably June 1. Dean Zia?
No, so I'm going to say that it's before the pre-registration date for the following semester, and we're going to have to reach out to people. Part of when pre-registration will be related to how successful this is. So if people remember in the past, we always do fall pre-registration in the middle of spring, and that was sort of weird because doing it now after you've finished your courses, maybe after you've had a summer experience, maybe there's some new things you want to check out. This is really ideal. So if we find some way to use this system to allow us to do pre-registration a little bit later, then the deadline will move related to that. So the concentration declaration is always before the pre-registration period for your 5th semester. And so if you're going into your 4th semester, I would encourage you to start filling it out at the beginning of the semester so you have time to speak with a concentration advisor in the fall. And the same goes if you're going to complete your 4th semester in the spring. It's going to move up because we're moving up the start of the spring semester. So that would be my guidance for you.
I think that students are worried that, so now we're saying that students are going to be matched. Oh, I said that we were going to move off of matching, but I'm going back to it, sorry. Students are going to be matched, and then it reopens August 17th. And is that any different in terms of now students who might be in a different time zone, have the 8 a.m., maybe they're already awake? How is that any different to make it from the first come, first serve once registration opens again?
This is it's a great question, Yoli. This is sort of the challenge that we have at this moment, right? Is we don't want to do something that's entirely a matching process because we want you to be able to switch things. But at the same time, if we're going to open it up, there's no better way to open it up than to open it up to everybody at once. So it's our hope that we're able to match you, especially for enrollment limited classes, for your concentration requirements, for these small classes that you're super excited about in the matching process, and then that we also have room for you to keep changing. And what I genuinely hope happens is that some students who decide that they're not going to take a class after looking at the syllabus, after looking at the Canvas course, might this year choose to drop a class during that period. Because before, you couldn't add a class to the first day, but you also couldn't drop a class. So this is about us as a community. If we all buy in, if we can get you enough classes that are of interest to you, and everyone feels comfortable adding and dropping classes before the semester, we can actually go into the start of the year with a little bit clearer picture about what your courses are going to look like, and you'll still have the opportunity to shop. But it's on us to figure it out together. So I hope that you'll get into classes that you're excited about. I hope that when you decide that you might not take a course anymore, you might feel comfortable dropping it so that one of your classmates can take the class. And vice versa. I hope that you are able to find things through the shopping period, talking to classmates. That's a really exciting class. I want to take that too.
Sorry, there's some questions about future us. How is the summer going to work? How is next year going to work? I'm wondering if you can just say your philosophy on what the future is going to hold for us.
Dean Rome, was that directed to me or Dean Cohen?
Yes, you, Dean Zia.
So if you're asking for my best guidance, what I'd say is let's focus on the things that we know now. So what we know about is the fall set of courses. And what I hope is I know that many of you are, I'm really eager to start the semester because I miss being in community with you all, focused on learning and discovery together. So let's focus on the fall classes. We don't yet know what spring and summer are going to hold for us. We don't have the final formalized class list for those terms. And to be honest, there are going to be many changes between now and the start of January. If you can imagine, 6 months ago, let's do this, 6 months ago was the start of spring semester. And if we think about what's changed since then, I think it's really helpful. I know that all of us are seeking for certainty right now, but what we're trying to do is to provide you certainty around those things that you can make decisions today. And if you have advice and guidance for us about how we can help make course selection, pre-registration, virtual shopping better, please share that with us. The feedback form that we shared with all students is still live about pre-registration. I'll try to find that link and share it out momentarily. And then there's still going to be, so there's a lot of things that happen. So if it's a course that is permission required of the instructor, feel free to put it in your primary cart now, because if there's a Canvas site, you'll have access to it. And don't worry, we can't match you for that, so it's not gonna harm you in the matching process. But it is a way to signal to the instructor your interest in a course. If you're thinking about two classes that might conflict, put them in your courses so we can see what we can get you into. And when we open up the add drop period, I promise you that we'll give you more instructions about how that process works. A little bit about how that works in terms of timing may be determined by how good the matches are.
Do we have a sense of attendance during that virtual 2 weeks or the week before and the week of class during the typical shopping period? Dean Zia.
So we will think that, I don't know what we mean about attendance. You know, usually our faculty or instructors at Brown understand that you want to check out what courses you want to be in. One of the hallmarks of our curriculum is that you get to choose. We don't have any general requirements, that you get to decide where you want to be, and we want to continue that tradition. So whereas some other places have decided to curtail shopping, we're not doing that. We're trying to expand it. We're trying to give you access to the materials earlier, allow you to add and drop earlier than you have before, so that you can find what is of greatest interest and passion to you. Usually instructors don't require attendance, but I don't know what's going to happen this semester. I think the best thing you can do is go in, check out the syllabi, see what's being talked about. I think instructors are going to be looking for engagement, especially in limited enrollment classes. In the past, the way that you may have demonstrated engagement, at least the way I remember demonstrating engagement, is showing up and asking after every class. That's a really strange way to do it. So we're going to be we're going to try to give some guidance to instructors about how to help work this out, because it's no longer going to be possible for you to just show up around the room. And we know that already. We know that people are going to be here in Providence, that people are going to be remote. We're trying to make it accessible for all. So it'll be individual at the level of courses, but I would hope that attendance isn't the primary determining factor early on.
Thank you. Can a student put less than 3 courses in their cart? Will that?
You are welcome. Yes. So you're welcome to put as many courses in your cart. Yeah. But what I would tell you is, if you put one course in your cart, I'm going to use an example of a highly, let's say that you put in persuasive communication, one of the favorite courses on this campus, and that's the only course you put in your cart. You're probably not going to get the course. So there's no downside to putting more courses in your cart. What our recommendation is try to put at least 5 courses in your cart so that we can help match you for something. There are no guarantees. If we've made any guarantees, once you put constraints on any of these matching processes, there are ways to game the system, and we don't want to do that. If you want to roll the dice and try one course, then you're welcome to. If you don't have any courses in your cart, please expect an email from me, because I want to make sure that you get some opportunity. If you don't have 5 courses in your cart, you may also get an email from me, because I want you to have a chance. Just as if we would be worried if on registration day you didn't push the button in the morning, I'm going to be a little bit worried if you don't have any courses in your cart. And I hope that's okay, that we're going to send you a reminder. And there's no guarantee that you're getting at least 3 courses. We're going to try to match as many as is possible. And if it's really skewed, if we're able to match 3 for some and only 0 for others, we might change what the ratio of courses that we provide is. And I apologize in advance for the uncertainty around that. We're just trying to make the fair system that we can.
Students could put in courses in their cart that are at the same time or not. So they can't register for courses at the same time right now, but could they put them in their cart because it's not actually a registration cart at this point?
Yes, you can put as many courses, even conflicting courses, into your cart as you would like. We're going to do our best. We can't register you for them, but we like. And I see that there's a hypothetical question about, is there a $15 non-registration fee for not putting any courses in your cart? No, we're not charging you a fee about this, but you might get a reminder, and we hope that that's okay.
And how about RISD enrollment? Do we know?
So we are maintaining our cross-registration agreement with RISD for the fall semester. Our schedules are aligned. Please know there are always some constraints about doing cross-registration of courses. So if you're interested in cross-registering for courses, please reach out, take a look at the Brown RISD cross-registration sort of guidelines. We're unfortunately unable to do cross-registration in the spring because the spring calendars for Brown and RISD are quite different. If you're a student in the Brown RISD dual degree program, you would have already heard, you're actually a student in both of the institutions, so you'll be able to continue with that registration, but it's not going to be a standard part of our programming for spring. That's something that with certainty I can provide you today.
There's a question about lottery for Visa 100. That's actually just for first years, and there won't be a lottery this year. So if you're interested in taking Visa, put it in your cart. All right. We're at 3:51, so we have gone over a lot of questions. I think some students have come in maybe a little bit later than maybe some of the questions that did get answered. So this will be posted in, I think, 2 to 3 business days. So you can go back and hear questions about overlap and how the carts are working. When is registration actually going to open? So stay tuned. There are a lot of questions that have been answered. I see a lot of the questions repeated. And I'm not sure if there's any new questions in here, Dean Zia, do you see any, or Dean Cohen?
I see some. So if we could go through, I see a question from what I assume is a pre-medical student asking about indicating pre-med requirements. Please know that we know what the pre-med requirements are. So we're going to try to see many of the pre-med requirements I don't believe are capped. As an example of that, I believe physiology is going to be, I might be wrong here, but I believe that physiology is being taught as an asynchronous, fully online course. So I think it might be helpful. Why don't we do this? I'm going to try something that might be relatively risky, but if it's okay with everyone.
Here's a funny question. Is it a physical person matching us or is it a computer? People always program those computers, but no, there isn't one person who's matching 7,000 students to 800 courses.
So I'm sorry, so it isn't a physical person, it's a program. It'll be a program written by several of us, myself included, trying to do this. It's similar to the program that we use to match advisors. So I just wanted to show you what I'm gonna do to go in and check about physiology. So I'm gonna check, I know that physiology is a biology course. I type in bio into the top and we see all of the matching courses. If I was interested in finding the fully online courses, I would change the mode of instruction here to fully online, and you saw that that list reduced. If I wanted to find the hybrid courses, I could do that. That's a different list of courses. By the way, some classes will show up as fully online and hybrid because there might be multiple ways for you to put together the components. They may have a fully online lecture, but they might have a hybrid section and an online section. So there might be a fully online path through the course. There might be a hybrid path. We're looking at the fully online options, and I go into Principles of Physiology. You'll see how Principles of Physiology is listed here as course offered online. It doesn't have a time. Whereas Viral Epidemics has a specific time, Thursday, 4 to 6:30 p.m. So if we go in and click here on Physiology, we'll see that this is a fully online asynchronous course. It doesn't have any meeting times. Okay? So this is one way that we can go in and take a look at courses. You'll also sometimes notice that other courses may have class notes. So if I'm looking at genetics here, it tells us a little bit more about what's going to happen this semester. Course content will be delivered asynchronously using Canvas modules incorporating text, images, and video. The class is mostly asynchronous, but has some synchronous live Zoom components, including class discussions, problem-solving sessions. Okay. So please know that you can search in this way. I wish that I could show you how to add courses in your cart, but that's one way to do it. I also know that we've gotten some questions in the chat about courses in a concentration. Please note that the courses in a concentration can sometimes be misleading because when you search inside a concentration, so let's say we pick, I'm going to look at the mathematics SCB. You only see a couple of courses here, and that depends on what's described in the bulletin. If you wanted to find all math courses, the way to search would be to type MATH and search. This is especially true for disciplines. I'm going to show one. So if you look at political science, Paul's, you'll see that there are 22 political science courses that are fully online. There are 35 political science courses. When you go inside the concentration and look at political science, you'll notice that Paul's courses don't show up here, political science courses, and that's simply because the way the political science lists the requirements isn't as specific courses, it says areas and themes, and these are the supplemental courses. So if you look in the bulletin, courses in a concentration are built off these course lists, but there are lots of ways that you could find courses that have to do with these sub areas. And so they're not listed out here, they're not enumerated here, which is why they don't show up in that other list. But if you want to see them, then you could search. So I hope that that gives you some sense of how you might use CAB to take a look at courses.
Can you take a course, if you're remote, can you take a hybrid course fully online?
So please know that the goal is to make every class accessible to remote students. We understand that at least 15–16% of the class has decided to study remotely outside of the Providence area, and all courses are hybrid in that they're being offered with a way to engage perhaps, so all of the courses that are hybrid will have a remote participation option. So any course is accessible to remote students. Some are fully online, and so even if you're in Providence, you're going to be interacting online. Also, if you choose to study in Providence, you will also have access to engage in those courses remotely. Our goal, one of the guiding principles of Brown, is giving you choice, letting you choose how you want to engage with this particular process. And the choice that we're offering you is about whether to take your courses in residence or remotely. And if you do, you always have access to this online form of that.
So given that many students would be remote, they're not necessarily going to get to the bookstore for their books. How is that working? Can I ask?
That's a wonderful question. Okay. So I want to say two things. Know that there are lots of people at the university who are deeply passionate about getting the resources that you need to succeed. We have colleagues in the library that are working nonstop to help digitize those materials to which we have rights so you can access them online. Actually, in a few minutes, I'm going to a meeting with colleagues from the bookstore and the financial advising team and financial aid and the digital learning and design team talking about the textbook pilot, which is the program that we use to help support first and now second year students on financial aid to get access to books and course materials. You're going to be able, as students, to order your books online for pickup at the bookstore. And for those studying remotely, the bookstore is working to help ship you materials. We're also going to try to encourage instructors to make materials accessible, at least remotely, for the first couple of weeks, because we know it might be difficult to get those materials out to you. Please know that right now we're in the process of adding all of those books and course materials to the CAB as instructors submit them, because the CAB system was just rebuilt. And we'll be sharing with you more information about how to get books and other course materials. Please know if there's anything we can do to help you, if there are any materials you need to succeed in the semester, reach out to us. If you need to speak with an academic advising team, you can always reach us at college@brown.edu. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come together today. I hope that this session, and especially I'm thankful for all the questions that you provided. I hope that the answers gave you some additional information as you go looking to select courses and to pre-register. If you found this helpful, please let us know. We'll try to make more venues open to have conversations with you. We know that many things are changing, but the one thing we hope doesn't change is our connection to each other and our support of one another in shared learning. So thank you all. Thank you, Dean Rome, for all that you are doing to help support our first, second year, and first generation college students. Thank you, Dean Cohen, for all you're doing to help support class advising and personal and health advising at the university. Thank you, all of our colleagues from media services and event services, for making this possible. And thank you, students, for attending. We look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in September when classes begin, if not sooner. Take care.